Happy Friday. You made it through this week. That's a good thing. Let me be more on camera. There we go. Hey, I am Matt with So Cincy. We're glad to have you. There we go. That's better. That's going to drive me nuts. All stream. If that camera wasn't adjusted. So, I'm Matt with So Cincy. And So Cincy, what we do is we help people share the gospel. We help people do evangelism. We help people do discipleship. And you can follow us everywhere on social media. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at So Cincy. And it's going to be pretty exciting. So we're going to hop right into it. It's Wild Card Weekend. It's going to be pretty exciting. Let me know in the comments who you're rooting for this weekend. I will, as always, be rooting for the Bengals' downfall. I might just go down to the Hard Rock Casino, Hard Rock Cincinnati. Since sports betting is now legal in the state of Ohio, I might go down this weekend and pop down $100 that the Ravens beat the Bengals in Cincinnati. No, I don't do betting. It's against the Bible. I'm just kidding. No, but if you do that, put down $100 for me. I'm just kidding. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into it. We're going to be in Mark chapter 9. Again, today on Fridays, we do questions that people ask Jesus. And it says, when they returned to the other disciples, they saw a large crowd surrounding them. This is post-transfiguration. This was last Friday's podcast and stream. So the transfiguration just happened. Well, according to Mark, it just happened. But when they returned to their disciples, they saw a large crowd surrounding them, and some teachers of religious law were arguing with them. I'm assuming with the disciples. When the crowd saw Jesus, they were overwhelmed with awe, and they ran to greet him. "What is all this arguing about?" Jesus asked. One of the men in the crowd spoke up and said, "Teacher, I brought my son so you could heal him. He is possessed by an evil spirit that won't let him talk. And whenever the spirit seizes him, it throws him violently to the ground. Then he foams at the mouth and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. So I asked your disciples to cast out the evil spirit, but they couldn't do it." Jesus said to them, "You faithless people, how long must I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy to me." So they brought the boy, but when the evil spirit saw Jesus, it threw the child into a violent convulsion, and he fell to the ground, writhing and foaming at the mouth. "How long has this been happening?" Jesus asked the boy's father. He replied, "Since he was a little boy, the spirit often throws him into the fire or into water, trying to kill him. Have mercy on us and help us if you can." "What do you mean if I can?" Jesus asked. "Anything is possible if a person believes." The father instantly cried out, "I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief." When Jesus saw the crowd of onlookers was growing, he rebuked the evil spirit. "Listen, you spirit that makes this boy unable to hear and speak," he said. "I command you to come out this child and never enter him again." Then the spirit screamed and threw the boy into another violent convulsion and left him. The boy appeared to be dead, and a murmur ran through the crowd as people said, "He's dead." But Jesus took him by the hand and helped him to his feet, and he stood up. Afterward, when Jesus was alone in the house with his disciples, they asked him, "Why couldn't we cast out that evil spirit?" Jesus replied, This kind can be cast out only by prayer." As I'm reading through this for the third time, because I read this twice yesterday, there's a couple of things I noticed. And a couple of new things. So we're going to do this how we usually do. Actually, I'm going to do this a little differently. We're going to go through what we see. We're going to go through observation, interpretation, application. That's how you do a Bible study. You have your observation, you have your interpretation, and you have your application. Now, I did a video on this, but to see that video, you'd have to go over to rumble.com/ I think it's rumble.com/SoCincy, or just look up So Sensei on Rumble. We're the only over there. But this video all about the Bible study methods. It's a Rumble exclusive, so you'd have to go over there and check it out. But in observation, you're asking the question, what am I seeing? And you gotta do a lot of like old school English class things, like noticing nouns, adjectives. But as I read this a second time, there's a couple things I did notice. The first thing I noticed, pull the Bible back up for y'all. He is possessed by an evil spirit that won't let him talk. So that was one thing that one of the men in the crowd, the father, brought to, or the boy, I should say. The boy was having this issue where the evil spirit would not let him talk. And then Jesus added that the spirit that makes this boy unable to hear and speak. So this spirit that was in the boy, from what the father knew, and there's nothing really in this, nothing like special or anything like that. The father knew that the evil spirit would not let him talk, and Jesus knew that the evil spirit would not let him hear and talk. And then also, the evil spirit that was in the boy would seize him, throw him violently to the ground, and cause him to foam at the mouth, grind his teeth, and become rigid. I think they also said they throw him in the fire. Maybe not. Okay, yeah, I thought that was fire involved. I guess not. Okay, but there was another demon all the way back. Oh goodness, it's Mark 2, Mark 3, or Mark 4. One of those chapters. The man who was, I think it's Mark 4. The man who was possessed by an evil spirit. They wrapped him in chains. Or actually, no. Okay, so there's 3. I think this is the third one. It could have been the fourth one. I think this is the third one. There was a man who was in chains where the spirits went to the pigs. And I think there was another one where I don't know. I'm getting out. But just go look at the beginnings of Mark. Go look at the beginning of Mark. Somewhere around there. Let me just pull it up. There's the paralyzed man. So it wasn't Mark 2. Wasn't Mark 3. The Prince of Demons. Oh, that's that. Mark 4. Are we seeing it? I'm not seeing it. That's okay. But anyways, I know in Mark that there are other. Oh, here it is. Demon-possessed man. He was in the tombs, and then his name is Legion. He sends him into pigs. Okay, so this might be the second one. I thought there was another one. Anyways, as I was saying, in Mark, in this, the demon does not let the boy speak, does not let the boy hear. And so that's something that Jesus had to overcome. Now, the other thing that I noticed, what was the other thing I noticed? I forgot what this was. Okay, anyways. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. As I read this the second time, this is the other thing I noticed. Or the third time, I should say. As I read this the third time, the disciples asked him, why couldn't we cast out the evil spirit? And I've been thinking on this one. Jesus gives like a quick answer. He says, Jesus replied, "This kind can be cast out only by prayer." And so I was like, when I first read this, I was like, okay, this is quick. Like there's no other context to it. It goes on and starts talking about a whole other thing. And I was a little nervous. I was like, how are we gonna, what does Jesus mean by this kind can only be cast out by prayer? And here's what I've discovered, because I started to study this a little bit more. So the disciples had the power to cast out demons, correct? Yes, correct. They had the power to cast out demons, but why couldn't they cast this one out? Because Jesus says this one only can be cast out by prayer. Now, the disciples had the ability, but I'm guessing that they were relying too much on themselves. They were relying too much on themselves to be able to cast out this demon. And so, even though Jesus gave them the ability to do so, I'm gonna assume, maybe, this is where this is leading me. The reason why they couldn't cast it out is because they forgot who the source of their ability to cast out demons came from. And so Jesus was able to cast out demons, obviously because he's Jesus. But also Jesus knows who the source is, which is his Father. So whenever you're reading scriptures, especially when Jesus was on earth in a physical body, a lot of times you read Jesus went off to pray. Maybe the disciples did that as well. But as far as I know, I don't think they document it that the disciples also prayed. They may have. But I don't know if the authors of the gospel, if Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, if they didn't find it necessary to report that the disciples prayed or whatever. I don't know. But this would lead me to believe, and I could totally be wrong on this one, but this would lead me to believe that the disciples, if they, I don't want to say that. I was going to say if they prayed more. I don't like that. But there's something about Jesus saying this kind of can only be cast out by prayer. There was something that the disciples couldn't do it because they weren't praying. That's how I get led to this observation or this thought process. Did they not know, or not know? Did they forget that? Did they rely too much on themselves? That's what I'm trying to say. Did they rely too much on themselves and their ability, and not think about where the ability came from that truly gave them the power to do this? And I think for us as individuals, sometimes we do that. That we are so, I know I do it all the time, that we are so self-sufficient in our abilities that oftentimes we may forget to go to the person, God, who gave us those abilities. Maybe, I don't know. I could totally be wrong. I could totally be misinterpreting the scripture. But that's what led me to this. I think I may be right, but I don't know. Again, I could be wrong. If you're a Bible scholar, you know all about Mark 9, let me know in the comments down below and say, hey Matt, you're wrong. Here's why. I'll totally. I'm okay with that. But I don't want to just go with I don't really want to go with the assumption that the disciples never prayed. I would imagine they probably did. It just wasn't documented while Jesus was on earth. At least that, not that I can think of or remember, or even know that when it said the disciples prayed. I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. They probably did. But there's something about prayer that Jesus says here in Mark 9, verse 29, that this kind of demon can only be cast out by prayer. So, what can we get away? What would be my application into this? My application would be to remember where your abilities come from. And that it's faith in that person that gives you the abilities. And it's not about how much faith you have. It's about having faith. And says, Jesus gave me X ability to do Y skill. And it's not that, because I think that's where, especially for Jesus followers, for Christians, people that go to church, whatever you want to call yourselves, I think you get into a lot of trouble when you say something like, you have to have X amount of faith in order for something to happen. I think you get into a lot of trouble with that. Because when you say something is doable, if you have this much faith, and that thing doesn't happen, the guilt and shame that falls on that person because they didn't have your level of faith that you stated. I think if you keep it simple by saying have faith, that Jesus gives you an ability to do something, whatever your something is. Jesus gives you the ability to do your something. Have faith in that, and that Jesus has you, and Jesus backs it up. When you put an amount to it, that's where you get in trouble. That's what I just personally think. Because like I said, if you put a number to it, your amount of faith has to be 73%. If you put a number to it, a marker to it, and you can say, oh yeah, if you have this much faith, then you can blah 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 blah. You can do X, Y, Z. This you'll get this and this and that. This thing will be healed or whatever, and then those things don't happen. The only logical conclusion is, well, you just didn't have that much faith. And I think you do an extreme amount of harm. That has never happened to me, but I know people who have come from that sort of background where people have told them, you need to have this amount of faith and your wildest dreams will come true. And it left them feeling guilty and shame because the thing didn't happen and all that. And so when you get into it, when you go to God for your prayer, say, God, give me, like the Father said, not God the Father, but the Father in the story. Jesus asking things possible person was the Father and cried out, I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief. The application for today is, if you are unbelieving, if you have faith, but you're skeptical, you're pessimistic, you're just struggling, you're doubting, help me overcome my doubt, help me overcome my struggle, help me overcome my You name it. Jesus gave him the power. And if that's your prayer today, hey, I'll pray that with you today. Jesus, help the people listening to this if they are struggling with something, if they're dealing with stuff, they don't see a way out of it. Give them faith to overcome their unfaith. Give them a belief that help to overcome their unbelief. Amen. That'll be the stream for today. It was short. It was quick. I woke up late, but that's okay. But I'm Matt with So Cincy. You can give us a follow anywhere on social media. All on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter. Which one I didn't say. If you like the video, give a like, share, or subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you. We love you. Have a great weekend. Go Ravens. Ugh, no, I can't say that. I'm a Steelers fan. I hope they both lose and they both get eliminated. That's what I want. We'll see you. Have a great weekend.